Thank you, Presiding Officer, and thank you, Cabinet Secretary, for your statement today. I'm sure everyone in this chamber will agree that relationships and sexuality can be complicated and are very rarely straightforward. For young people, they can be confusing and in some cases difficult to understand. In your statement, you're right to allude to the damage done by Section 28, and thankfully it's now confined to history. We must always accept people no matter what their sexuality or gender, something that has overwhelming support from the majority in today's society. But I'm sure that I'm not the only member in the chamber to have concerns over the overhaul of sex education in Wales. It is the role of the national curriculum in Wales to facilitate children's education by identifying pupils' abilities and encouraging them to be the best they can be, whether it's in academia or extracurricular activity, or hopefully both. It's essential that schools do provide support for children as they develop relationships and begin to understand their sexuality. However, this should be done at an appropriate age and should be led by the child. I'm startled to see in the expert panel's report and your statement today that children as young as 5 years old will be taught relationships and sexuality education. Cabinet Secretary, surely you must agree that we should encourage children to focus on their schooling and forging friendships with their classmates without overcomplicating their childhood. I firmly believe that it's the role of parents to educate their children on relationships and provide valuable lessons on consent and what's appropriate behaviour. UKIP have long opposed interference from government on matters of sexuality and sex education, especially for younger children, and we stand by our manifesto commitments that any form of sex education should not be taught in schools to anyone under the age of 11 years old. From the statement today, it is clear that the Welsh Government think they know best. We believe parents know best. The Cabinet Secretary assures us that she does not intend that children are taught topics that it's a response to a statement.
There's no intervention in the statement, Joyce Watson.
But, as has been pointed out by others in this chamber, children develop at different rates. It's not possible to say that simply because most are ready, all are ready. It is also impractical to say that because a child is age X, they're ready to be taught Y. Parents know their child better than the Cabinet Secretary, her panel of experts and the schools. As the Cabinet Secretary has pointed out, RSE is not just about biology, it's about values, ethics and making informed decisions. As such, it is not for the state to dictate what a child is taught about these matters. I would therefore like to ask whether the new rollout of relationships and sexuality education will have an opt-out for parents who feel that the curriculum is not appropriate for their child. You have said in your statement that you will provide professional learning and support for teachers who will be responsible for delivering relationships and sexuality education. I greatly value and admire the job our teachers do. It's a stressful and demanding job. People go into the profession with a passion for exploring and teaching their subject, but the curriculum is already arguably overburdened and lacks a clear vision on what our education system's priorities should be, something that's demonstrated in Wales' worrying PISA results. Do you not agree that these measures will further overburden teachers in an already demanding job, detracting their focus from what truly matters, educating the future generations of Wales? And as a final question, you've referred in your statement to providing additional funding for this. Where is that funding coming from? Thank you.
Presiding Officer, the member has just said that sex education isn't just about biology, it's about values and ethics. And I don't think it's ever too young to start to talk to a child about values and ethics. It's not for you to decide and to be taught. I think, as I said, I don't think it's ever too soon to start to teach children about values and ethics. And I would reiterate the point I made earlier in the reassurances I gave Darren Miller, that I have no intention of children being taught lessons that are not appropriate for their age. Now, the member has just said that her party's policy is that there should be no sex education, I think it was below the age of 11. So I guess that there should be no sex education in our primary schools. Only a couple of weeks ago, we had a debate in this chamber about period poverty and period dignity. The reality is, because the reality is, because of changes in how children grow, the age at which most girls will start their periods is dropping and dropping and dropping. There are many children, many girls in our primary schools whose periods have started. If the member had her way, then there would be no ability within our curriculum to help prepare our children for these things that are about to happen to them. And not just about preparing girls for what's about to happen to them, to be able to explain to the whole class that you don't tease that child because you see a sanitary towel or a tampon in her bag, because that's just how the world is. Now, I appreciate the member is of a set view, but I have to say, thankfully, she is in a minority in this chamber. And more importantly, she is in a minority in the wider civic conversation. The announcement today has been welcomed by our Children's Commissioner, by our Future Generations Commissioner. It's been welcomed by children's charities. It's been welcomed by Relate, the relationships charity. It has been welcomed across the board, because what they understand is if a crucial part of our education for our children isn't just about English or maths or Welsh language or science. It is about teaching them how they can survive and thrive in a changing, rapidly changing world. And if you think that children can make the most of their curriculum and their learning opportunities and their ability to learn those traditional subjects, if they have not understood about domestic violence, or they haven't been able to keep themselves safe because they may themselves be a victim of abuse, they can't learn the curriculum. This is a crucial part of our children's education, and I say that not just as the Cabinet Secretary for Education, but as a mother as well.
Jenny Rathbone.